Hello, you groovy groovers. How are you doing? Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben.
Yo.
And it's 1996. Now, before we go any further, I do have to put in an apology and a warning that Ben has had COVID
I
and
have,
still
yeah.
still coughing
I am
like
still
a
coughing, yeah.
coughing like a 40 a day smoker with a sore throat. So
Yeah. I was really poorly with it, Philster. I was
you
poorlier
were,
with it than I was when it was an actual proper thing.
yeah, when we had the pandemic. So
Yeah.
but you're a bit better now. Can you taste? Did you lose your taste?
No, I've still got taste, Phil. I didn't go out and buy a Spice Girls album, so my taste is still there, my friend.
And that what could have been a Spice Girls album from 1996.
Yep, yeah, it's either that or it was going to be a Phil Collins album.
In fact, I saw. What did I see? I saw something on TV last night. I think it might have been a montage of Olympics things, and they used. I tell you what I want. What I really, really want.
Oh, really?
And
That
I thought
song's not dated well.
that was 96, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah.
But I'm suspecting not on your list.
No, not even with a COVID foggy brain is that appearing anywhere near my list.
Well, those of you regular viewers will know that this year we are listening every month to albums from a different year of the 90s, going through them in chronological order. And for July, the year was 96. So we've now got to round off July
We
and
have,
pick our three personal favourite albums of that year. So,
yeah. It.
do
Do
you
you
want to
know what?
start?
I'll start, but I thought the 1996 was going to be quite easy because I just thought, it's just going to be a melee of Britpop greatness, and it's turned out to be really, really hard because obviously I rediscovered the Busta Rhymes album, which I really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed a lot of the albums I've listened to. What album did I miss? I did listen to an album which wasn't from 1996 the other day, and I did message you about it and said it was awful, but that doesn't fit into this category. So, um, but I think, got it down to three, and they were my three at the start, and they haven't really changed. And there was some albums that were poking the finger at it. Obviously, the Fugees, The Score. I revisited that and I forgot what a really good hip hop album that is. If I remember right, it was recorded in their basement for very little money. That album.
That increases its appeal for me, I think just knowing that.
Yeah. So I
No,
really,
I think I've got that. Do you know? Well, I have got that. I've got a CD of that. And do you know what? I've never totally been able to decide whether I like it or not.
yeah. I must admit, it's one of those. I think I've said before about certain albums. I don't think I could listen to it on repeat. I don't think it would be on there all day, but it's certainly a really good album. The production, everything. It's a solid hip hop album. So
Yeah.
that was finger in the fertiles of my top three. And then another hip hop one was Tupac, All Eyes on Me. But I think I did really, I do think that is a classic hip hop album. But again, I think you have to be in the mood for it because it's all quite angry.
You have to have all eyes on Tupac and all
You have,
ears on Tupac.
you have to have everything. But he is quite angry in it. It is quite. Rah! So, but that was a good album. And then two two indie classics for me that were very, very close. Call the Shakers K. Love that album. I think it's an underrated album.
Yeah, no, I see. Maybe I should have considered that more, but
Yeah.
it ain't on my shortlist.
It isn't on your shortlist. Well, the other one on my shortlist was Ocean Could Have Seen and Mosley Shoals. So
Yeah, and that's a band that I didn't listen to enough.
I know every album they've released after this album, apart from I think the B-sides album. was critically panned, I think, by everyone. I think if you look at most of their albums after this one, they get 1 and 2 stars.
Is that
But
fair?
no, I don't think so. I think they're fairly solid, but I think it's because they do what they do, and if you always do what you're going to do, you're always going to get what you've always got.
The critics won't like it after a while. They might like it for a short while, but then they'll get bored of you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah. But some of the songs from around this Moseley, because I didn't realise that the front cover of Moseley Shoals, I always thought that was some outside their recording studio in Moseley in Birmingham. But it's not. It's actually from Jefferson Gardens in Leamington, just up the road here.
Right. Okay.
That album cover's taken. And around that period, you got, I think it was on the Deluxe version of this album, and it's obviously on the B-sides, Free Rides out. Songs like Robin Hood, Want to Stay Alive with You. They're really great tracks, but never made it onto the A side of this album. So, but I do love that album. I did revisit it, and it's a solid 7 out of 10.
Well, it was a big album at the time, and I remember there were
It
certainly
was, yeah.
two really big singles that you heard everywhere.
David Caught the Train.
David Caught the Train was heard everywhere. That was heard as much as an Oasis song at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And also, of course, the Riverboat song
Thanks
was used.
to Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, TFI Friday, Walk On music. Yeah, so
It was, yeah. Down, 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 down,
and it's
down.
a great riff. It's a great.
It
riff.
is, yeah. And I do like. I mean, I think Simon Fowler. You can tell. His vocal is, I don't think his vocal range has dropped slightly, but back then he had a really good. Obviously, he's got older. I think he's 59 years old, and he's put on a little bit of timber.
Right.
But yeah, I was watching some Ocean Colour Scene live from around this period, especially songs like Robin Hood and The Circle, and very, very good, very, very good. So they were on the tip. They were literally caressing the nipples of the top 3, but they didn't make it. But they could still make it because I could still change my mind.
Well, of the 5 I've got, talking about the British sort of indie type stuff, of the 5 I've got, I've just realised that only one of them is British, and it's Welsh. And now you know what it is, don't you?
Is it Manic Street Preachers or is it Super Furry Animals? Oh,
it could have been Super Furry Animals. But I do think that's an exceptionally good album. I must admit, it's the only Manic Street Preachers album that I've really listened to a lot.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not really a proper fan. I'm not really a proper fan of the band, but I'm a fan of the album.
Yeah, I like a lot of the singles, like Motorcycle Emptiness, that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
The follow-up album to that, this is My Truth, So Tell Me Yours. That was a good album. And then I did buy the one after that one, the one with Tsunami.
Haven't you also got a vinyl? Haven't you also got a vinyl of Gold Against the Soul?
I have as well. My friend bought me that for my birthday last year. Yeah. I haven't listened to it yet. Well, I've listened to bits when we were doing our... Was that for 93, 94?
I think it was 93. I may be wrong, but it's 2 or 3 anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to a bit then. But yeah, I do. Well, you never know. It might turn up in my top 3, Phil stuff.
It might do. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's by far the best of their albums. It's just the only one that I've got. And to me, they're one of, there's lots of bands out there that you like and you think they're good.
Yeah.
But you only own one of their albums and you don't go into buying all their other albums. You just have one.
Yeah.
And that's what the Manics have been for me. But that's not to say that the other albums aren't good, because I'm sure they are.
No. Well, I would say I don't know too much about the later Manic stuff, but I would say out of that sort of period from 91 to 2004, those 3 albums from Everything Must Go to, I can't remember what the third album was. the one with Tsunami on it. They're probably the most sort of commercial, sort of with more wide stream appeal, I suppose I would say. They're more, for the commercial sort of, the wider public. Whereas I think the albums before that, they were sort of, a more better kept secret.
I must admit that I did get fed up with A Design for Life. I must confess I got a bit fed up with it because it was overplayed a lot, wasn't it?
It was overplayed, but when you actually listen to it,
it is great. Don't get me wrong.
It is a great track. It is a great track. But I understand the because I think I had the similar thing with If You Tolerate This, Then Your Children Will Be Next. When that came out on the that got a little bit overplayed, but that was a great track as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the thing about this album is that all the other tracks I can enjoy.
Yeah.
So I can enjoy the whole album and skip. I can even skip Design for Life and still think it's great. But
do you know what? That's the kind of rebel you are, Phil.
That's the kind of rebel I am. Yeah.
People think that you're just sat there. I mean, obviously, because people don't realise this. You live in a castle and you do this in the West Wing, but people just think you sit there making maniacal plans to take over the world because you've cottoned onto the fact that you look like a Bond villain. But people don't realise that you're living life on the edge on a daily basis. You are literally getting classic albums and skipping big tracks.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
People. There are people out there. There's spies, counterintelligence people, all these who think they are edgy. They're like balloons compared to you, Philster. They have no edge. You're there. Morning Glory. I'm gonna put that album on. Don't Look Back in Anger. Skip that. Ugh!
Oh, I have done that. I have done that.
You are dangerous. You should come with. Remember, like hip hop albums had the explicit warning label on it. That's what you should have, just for going around living your daily life. People should be coming up to you, and you should be going, "Whoa!" and they go, "Oh, you're dangerous." You're like, "Yeah, I'm like a bolt of lightning. I'm like a 3-day old quiche out of its sell-by date. You touch me, you're going to be in pain."
I'll tell you what's the ultimate one I've done. Right?
What's that?
Listen to U2, The Joshua Tree, and skipping Where the Streets Have No Name, Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and With or Without You. The 3 big radio songs at the start of the album. Skipping them and just playing the rest of the album. I've actually done that,
Hello? Yeah. Hello, Bear Grylls. How are you? Yeah. He's far more dangerous than you. Yeah. He once punched a duck in the face. I know. Yeah. Okay. I'll let him know. Okay. Yeah, he did skip those. Yeah. Streets Have No Name. Yeah. I know. Maniac. Anyway. Yeah. Love you. Yeah. Bye, Bear. Bye. Sorry about that, dude. Just a little phone call there. Just reporting you to the Bear Grylls police for being dangerous.
It's just sometimes I like to hear these other tracks that are not heard everywhere, and I just like to give them a little.
Do you realise that these tracks do come after the ones that you're skipping anyway? So you could listen to those tracks, and
I could.
I just didn't realise what you are. Literally like a human lightning bolt, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are super dangerous.
What's your next shortlist album?
I don't think I don't. I think that is my shortlist. I think I got it. Like I said, I had Busta Rhymes on there. I thought that was a good album. There wasn't really anything else that I kind of listened to and thought you are going to touch my top 3. Traveling Without Moving, Jamiroquai, but no, I don't. That's an album that I should like more, but I don't like enough. If that makes sense, okay. I prefer the album and DJ Shadow. I forgot DJ Shadow. What a great album! That one was definitely. I almost put that in my top 3, but I couldn't put it in my top 3 for one reason, and that is I'm not invested enough in it. I haven't the three albums I've chosen have been a big part of the last 20, 30 years. So they have been regularly listened to.
Yeah.
This one I have only just discovered. So in some regards, doing this has helped me discover something brilliant in that album. I think that's a brilliant album. It's clever without being, like, I went to university, don't you know, and I'm really clever and I'm going to put it in front of you and make you see how clever I am. It was just, yeah, I just really enjoyed it because it was something different. And I said it before, how it's not a bigger part of the conversation when people talk about that sort of era of the music times. I don't know, but yeah, they that is basically my short list right there, because 1996 for me has been a little bit disjointed because I have been poorly and life has got in the way, unfortunately, in 1996 this time. But the three albums I've chosen are the three albums which at the start of this I thought, it's going to be hard to push them out. So
Yep, I can see that. You got to go with the ones you're emotionally attached to.
exactly. See, COVID has made me emotionally reconnect with myself.
Yeah.
So
Now here's one from '96 by a guy. We know this guy, but we didn't know what to call him in 1996.
is he a squiggle?
It was a squiggle.
Oh, is that the one with gold on it? Is that the Emancipation album? Or
it's the Emancipation album, but this doesn't have gold on because that was the previous year. That was the Gold Experience.
That was it, yeah. All that glitters ain't gold.
No, I don't want to go on about Prince too much, but I think if anyone...
Pay salespeople. He's going to go on about Prince.
No, essentially, I think everyone knows he had a row with Warner Records and decided he wasn't getting what he wanted from them, and wanted various things that they wouldn't give him. And I won't go into the whole thing, but he announced in '93, wasn't it, that he was going to call himself The Symbol, and he was going to be the artist formerly known as. And of course, many people at the time thought that this was just like a mad publicity stunt. And I don't think they really realised that what was behind this was this legal battle with the record company. But anyway, after he eventually broke free, he made an album called Emancipation. Now that's a triple album. If you listen to it on CD, it's 3 discs. And I think there's a vinyl version I think that might be 6 discs. I may be wrong about that, but it's a 3-hour long album. Now I have to say that although I bought it out of loyalty, I wasn't massively into it at the time because it's such a big album. And I think at the time also I was a little bit put off by the production because it sounded a little bit too much like some of the other R&B stuff at the time. But I've since reappraised it a bit and I like it more now than I did then. But will it make my top 3? That's the question, Ben.
What was that, Phil?
Will it make my top 3? What is that Bob Dylan book anyway, brother? What is that?
It is called The Mammoth Book of Bob Dylan.
Right.
The fullest ever anthology of writing about rock's greatest poet. Bob Dylan, winner of the 2016 Nobel Prize for Literature. So there we go.
There's a lot been written about Dylan. So that compilation of various authors and stuff.
Bob Dylan, like guys, because here Sean Egan presents a selection of the best writing on Dylan, both praise and criticism, interviews, essays, features, and reviews from Dylan intimates and scholars such as John Baldy, Michael Gray, Nat Hentoff, and Jules Segal. Are inspired with a new narrative and reviews of every single album to create a comprehensive picture of the artist whose chimes of freedom still resound. Funny, I managed to read all of that while you were talking about Prince.
John Baldy was a rock critic. He was a Dylan expert. He used to produce, or he certainly was one of the main people behind a magazine called The Telegraph that was a Dylan fan magazine. But he died in a helicopter crash, and it was. Do you remember back in the 90s there was a helicopter crash where the directors of one of the top football clubs,
Chelsea,
died.
Matthew
It was
Harding.
Chelsea, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. He was on that helicopter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he died
Ah.
along with I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
that's
I
why the
think,
Chelsea stand's called the Matthew Harding stand.
yeah,
Matthew Harding.
I think I don't know whether John Baldy was a Chelsea fan and he was friends with them, and that's why I don't know the details of it, but I remember.
Did he have hair?
I'm not even going into that.
I just want it'd be funny if he didn't, because that'd be really awkward, wouldn't it? John Baldy. Here we go, John Baldy.
I think
Images.
it's isn't it BAULDE?
Yes, yeah, he did have hair.
Unlike me, which is BALDIE.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. Yeah, he died in controversial circumstances in a helicopter crash with businessman Matthew Harding having watched his favourite football team, Bolton Wanderers, defeat Chelsea.
Oh, he was a Bolton Wanderers fan.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The crash inquiry found that the pilot was not qualified to fly on the instruments in the fog of the crash night. So there we go. Yeah, because I remember Matthew Harding was quite young. I think he's only in his early 40s.
Was that a match that actually took place in the UK?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was in 1996, so it's relevant to
Right.
I just had the year.
I had it in my head that Chelsea had maybe played in Europe and they were coming back.
No. Here we go. I've just
right
on the 22nd of October 1996, while flying back from Chelsea's League Cup defeat away to Bolton Wanderers, the helicopter Matthew Harding was travelling on crashed in Middlewich, Cheshire, killing Harding along with the pilot and 3 other passengers, including the journalist John Baldy.
Hmm.
He was 42. So yeah, it's a. I don't do helicopters, but yeah, that was 1996. So relevant to this discussion that we are having a discussion about right now, because that is the year we are discussing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that how good is that? That we not how good is that they had a crash? That's really horrible. But you know that we kind of just from me picking up that book and reading it while you were yawping on about Prince, that we've managed to sort of educate ourselves on other things, and it comes back to 1996.
It comes back to 96. So I'm thinking that I'm sort of settled on my final 3 of 96, because these are the 3 albums I think from 96 that I was.
Are you going first? Are you going to? Are we doing one each, or are you going to do yours first?
Should we do one each? But I'll tell you what, one of these, its official release date is October, or it's certainly the autumn 96.
Well, I think one of mine is as well.
I didn't get into it until 97. And I'm also quite fascinated to know when it was released in the UK, because it's an American album, and I seem to remember reading about
mine's an American album as well.
In 97, and I was sure that it was an early 97 album, but I found out that it was 96. So I put it in 96.
But I didn't get into this band until about 98. So was it 97, 98 anyway. Is it the same band? That's going to be the question.
I don't think it is, but I don't think I've put these in order. I've put them in a 3-2-1, but I'm not saying these are definitely in order. But anyway, who's going first?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Am I supposed to do something without you knowing? I got it. We're both going to do it the same time.
So after 3, then we go 1, 2, 3, then show on 3.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I win, scissors. So
Okay.
you can go first. That was the worst game ever of paper, rock, scissors. Oh dear! Like baby fawns trying to walk.
So some of the tracks on this album include Where It's At,
All Saints,
The New Pollution.
Oh, I know who that is.
Hot Wax.
Yeah.
And Devil's Haircut.
Which is I Need a Haircut later on.
Which I'm not sure whether this dog on the front needed a haircut.
He is a long dog, isn't it?
What kind of dog is that?
Is it Dachshund or whatever they are. I don't know.
I've never really known what that is, but it's real, isn't it? It's a real dog.
I'm going to find out. I like that album, Becco Delay. To be fair, didn't listen to it this time around because I knew it. Yeah, I do like that.
I hadn't heard it in a very, very long time when I put it on in the car. And at first I thought, am I going to like this album as much as I used to? And then after a while, I got into it. I've got a little bit back into Beck now.
I do like Beck because he is absolutely bonkers. It's a Commodore. It's a Commodore, a rare breed of Hungarian dog with a heavy corded coat.
Right. It looks like a mop.
It does look like a mop.
It's exactly what one of those super absorbent mops, doesn't it?
It does, but it is a Commodore because that album came out June 96.
I remember it coming out, and I remember it being the cool album at the time. I remember going to local gigs to see bands and people that was being played, before the bands came on. And it was pretty one of the cool albums at the time.
Yeah. I mean, Devil's Haircut. I remember that because I remember the video being played a lot on MTV when MTV did music. But yeah, I always find Beck a bit like if Bob Dylan went double electric on speed.
You sure he didn't do that anyway? But
quite possibly. But I because they've got a similar sort of vocal tone in a way, if you know what I mean. They've both got that sort of gravelly sort of rasp to it.
They've got conventional singing voices, have they?
No, but I do love that that album. I love New Pollution. I think that's a great track as well.
I think Beck took something from Dylan, didn't he?
Yeah.
Especially some of those songs with the slightly more wacky lyrics, or the stream of consciousness kind of lyrics. That's you probably got something from that.
Oh, well, that picture on the front cover comes from a 1977 issue of the American Kennel Club magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that was in the 70s. I never knew that before.
There you go. I did my research just now. But it got good reviews. I'm just looking at reviews of it. Spin Magazine gave it 10 out of 10. Pitchfork 9.8 out of 10. NME 8 out of 10. Entertainment Weekly A-. The Guardian 4 out of 5. Los Angeles Times 4 out of 4. It's another one of those albums which you don't listen to enough, but you should listen to more.
Yeah, I used to listen to it a lot at the time. I'd like to know what generations who've come along later who don't remember it from the time would think of it, because at the time it was cool at the time and it was the thing at the time.
Yeah.
How is it dated for those who
well, in 98, Q Magazine rated it the 51st greatest album of all time. And Spin Magazine rated it at number 19 in their top. No, Pitchfork in their top number 19 in their top 100 albums of the 90s in 2003.
Yeah, well, it seemed groundbreaking. It was a case of that he'd combined together a whole lot of stuff that hadn't really been done before, in a slightly wacky way. So it felt very original at the time.
Yeah, and the use of fire alarm bells, is it? Devil's Haircut's got that sort of reverb, primal scream, and
there's all sorts of weird stuff in there. There's samples in there, but there's a lot of live instrumentation as well. But there's some samples, and the Dust Brothers were involved in that.
Yes, I remember because I remember the Dust Brothers being a sort of thingy for production and that. Who was the other one? They were like brother. Am I thinking of the Aphex Twins?
The Chemical Brothers? No.
Oh, I don't know. There
was not that obvious. No.
There was some other producer. I can't remember. I'm probably just going. Yeah.
Well, it was the Dust Brothers who Mick Jagger was impressed by them. He actually then, after he heard that Beck album, he then got the Dust Brothers involved in what became Bridges to Babylon by the Rolling Stones.
A panned album, which I think is really, really great.
That's one of our. Well, we've got that in common, haven't we? We both like Bridges to Babylon by the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's definitely up there.
We think it's a bit underrated.
Yes,
unfairly slagged off.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it is anyway. So.
But maybe we'll discuss that in 1997.
7, yes, yeah. Great year for music as well. Maybe some people may say the turning point for the death rattles of Britpop, but my one of my albums, Phil. So I'll throw one of mine in. It was released May '96. It was a duo, male and female.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sort of trip hoppy.
Have you listened to this album? Have you listened to it much recently?
I listened to it not that long ago, actually, because I had this on, and then I listened to Portishead's Dummy album. But
was it the first time in a long time though that you listened to it?
No, because I only bought it on vinyl last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. And I listened to it a fair amount then, and I have got a playlist with a lot of this album in. A lot of people,
okay. So I'm not going to be able to get in a quip, am I, about you missed it like the deserts missed the rain?
No, because do you know what? No, because that track doesn't appear on this album. That track actually appeared on the album before.
Right.
So a lot of people miss that track because they think I think it appeared on Amplified Heart.
And was the one that came out that was played on the radio? Was that a remixed version?
That was a remix, yeah, right. Yeah.
So the album that you're talking about, is that the one where they're sitting in the back of a car?
It is the album where they're sitting on the back of the car.
We're talking about Everything But the Girl.
We're talking about Everything But the Girl and Walking Wounded.
Right, so it's not on that. Right,
it's not on. Yeah, it's a mistake. A lot of people sort of.
Did a lot of people buy the album thinking that was going to be on there?
Possibly, yeah.
And then were either disappointed or obviously delighted in your case.
Yeah, I don't. I think that's another song that got overplayed.
It did. Well, it got played a heck of a lot, didn't it? At the time?
Yeah, and I do love the sort of. I love Tracy Thorn's vocals on a lot of these tracks. These sort of downbeat, sort of emotional sort of vocals that she does. I think it's a great album. I think it's solid. There's not a track on it that you think, oh, this is awful. And I appreciate it more in the last 15 years or last 10 years than I probably did at the time. I think the girl I was dating at the time had it on CD. And of course, I was probably a bit more, oh, this isn't Oasis or The Verve or something like that. But I really love this album. I think it should be spoken of more.
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really good, solid. And trip hop has become more prevalent for me over the years. I find it quite a enjoyable genre, the old trip hop. I do find it quite. I suppose it's in a way. I suppose it's the cousin of shoegazing in a way because there's a lot of those sort of atmospherics and that sort of feel to it. Obviously, with a more sort of dance vibe, I suppose. But I love this album. I think it's a really, really, really good album. And it has beaten off the likes of Cooler Shakers K and Mosley Shoals out of my top 3.
Wow.
I know. Mental, isn't it? I thought you were dangerous. Turns out I'm double dangerous. I am DD.
So this is another one from '96 that you could predict I'd have in there.
Go on.
But I got to have it in there. I remember this came out in the autumn of '96, and this is by an American band. And the first single they had off this album, which is also the opening track, it's called "How the West Was Won and Where It Got Us."
I remember that track. I can't remember who did it.
It's got piano near the start.
Yeah,
it's quite moody and atmospheric. How the West was won and where it got us.
Oh, it's going to bug me. Go on. Hit me with it.
Other tracks on this album include, I'm trying to think which ones were the singles. There was Bittersweet Me, was I think a single. Undertow, Was that a single? Can't remember. The Wake Up Bomb, New Test Leper, So Fast, So Numb, Electrolyte.
It's not Sonic Youth, is it?
No, you're kind of getting there in the sense that it's American band with an alternative background, but
And have you spoken about this band before?
yeah, I'm known for liking this band.
It's an album.
I think it's technically a double album. It was a long CD. I think it came out as a double vinyl. It was partly recorded while they were on tour. A lot of the songs, some of the tracks are actually live, and some of the tracks are studio, but they were done during the tour.
What tour was it? Have you seen them on tour? Did you see them?
I saw the tour.
Was it a tour? Were we talking about it the other day?
Yeah, I think so, because it was an anniversary of it.
Is it REM?
It's New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Ah, yes. I do remember that album. I was thinking the album was called How the West Was Won, and I was thinking, I can't. Yeah, I do remember that album. I do remember when it came out. It came out to a lot of fanfare, didn't it? That album.
Yeah, and it is a good one. There are some people who have it as their favourite REM album.
Yeah.
And there are some people who have it down near the bottom. So I suppose it's a little bit divisive. It's kind of, I suppose, in a way, you could say it's like a cross between Monster and Automatic for the People, but it's different. But it's different to that. But there is an element of them sounding a little bit, maybe a little bit tired from the tour. But that's part of the feeling that's evoked by the album. So you could say that it's in a way a document of where they were at that time. But yeah,
I don't think I've ever listened to it. I've
got a lot of different styles of songs on it.
Yeah.
Very solid double-length album. So that is New Adventures in Hi-Fi from REM.
Well, my next one up was released on the 20th of May 1996. It is by a Welsh band with a sort of blue album cover, which I don't have to hand. If only somebody did have it to hand. And it was the first album they released since the disappearance of their rhythm guitarist and lyricist. That's it. Everything Must Go by the Manic Street Preachers. What a brilliant album. I remember I've probably heard tracks by them. The first time I actually remember seeing them, that's it. Oh, that brings back memories. Was on TFI Friday when they played Everything Must Go.
Yeah.
Design for Life, sorry. And it's a really great album. I love the opening track, Elvis Impersonator on Blackpool Pier. I think that's a great track. I just think everything about it is...
I forgot that it was like a yellowy colour on the inside. I'm just looking at I don't remember all of this. I think there's a little bit of lyrics from each song on here.
On the yeah. Because I think Richie Edwards had. I think he does have songwriting credits on a lot of the songs. I think a lot of them were picked up.
I've forgotten all that was in there.
Yeah. It is a really great album. I don't own it on a 12-inch yet. Not for the want of trying. But yeah, I think it's a really good album. Almost a sort of unconventional rock album in many ways.
In a way, I think you could say that this is the last album. Well, maybe they did this again afterwards, but it feels like Richie Edwards is still part of this album because there's so many of his lyrics on there.
Yeah.
He was obviously no longer part of the band. So it kind of feels like the swan song for Richie Edwards, although I don't know whether they've used some of his unreleased lyrics on later songs. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but I do. In fact, let's bring it up. Let's bring up the Manic Street Preachers. The next album came out in '98. I remember that because they just released about 5 million singles.
Was that
from
If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next? Was that 98?
That was 98. And Rich Edwards has no songwriting credits on that one. So Know Your Enemy. That was the one from 2001.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think it's a really great album. Another one of those albums where I hadn't listened to it for ages, and then I put it on. I was like, why haven't I got this on repeat? It just brought back a lot of memories from that period, and it's just, I just think it's a really, really good album. And that's the most in-depth thing I can say about it, is every track on it is solid, and you do listen to it and think, why isn't this more of my world? But I do remember at the time I had it on CD, like you've got there, and I did listen to it a lot back in the day. Not as much, in the preceding years, but I remember it was one of my favorite albums of that time, and it is solid.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good.
It's a good album.
So that's in your top 3. I'm glad it's got through.
I'm glad it's got through as well. So, but like I say, Everything Must Go was probably a little bit overplayed. But I don't think the album went to number 1. I'm sure it only peaked at 2. But
it must have been one of the best-selling albums of that year in the UK, mustn't it? Because it was quite everywhere, wasn't it? And the songs were played a lot.
Yeah, I'd have to have a look. But I'm pretty sure that's one bit of knowledge I know about that album. It didn't go to number 1 in the official top 40.
No, I think it hung around a while. I remember seeing it in all the shops. Remember, you used to go and see albums in the shops. Remember that? Yeah, you used to go.
I remember that. I even remember shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still do go to shops of the record variety.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's my second one from 1996. I've got one left, and I actually have it in my hand.
Are we going to go with yours?
No, you go with yours first. You went first. You can end this. You can end this, son.
Well, this is an album by a band that have you ever taken a chance on an album because you've heard good things about it and you've never heard the band and you've been told that it's probably your kind of thing, and maybe you've read a rave review of the album which describes it, and you think, that sounds so much like my kind of thing, I'm just going to go and buy it.
The Kings of Leon debut album.
Yeah, well, I did that with this one. Now, I thought that this album came out in 97 because I remember buying it in around March 97. And I'm pretty sure that I bought it very soon after reading a rave review of it by the late Andy Gill, who used to be the critic for the Independent newspaper in the UK.
Yeah.
And what he described about the album, it just sounded to be so much up my street. And he said it was a very consistent double album. So I thought, I'm going to buy that. So it's an album by an American band, but I've since discovered that it was released in late 96, although maybe it did come out in the UK a bit later, but I haven't been able to ascertain that because every source says that it was released in 96. That I can find.
Yeah.
But maybe it did come out a bit later in the UK because they weren't a big band in the UK. So maybe the record company was taking a bit longer to...
Was it Bush? Razor Blade 2?
No,
that was a single album. That was 96 as well. I forgot about that. That was the track Swallowed, which I really loved at the time, but never really got into the album itself.
I still really like this album. This is still one of my favourite albums in the rock sort of genre.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess what it is yet?
I can't think of a double album by an
American band. It's a bit of a cult album in a way. It's not a really, really well-known one that gets talked about much. It's a band that at the time, the lead singer, who still is the lead, this band still exists, still makes albums. The cast of musicians have rotated a little bit, but the main guy, the main songwriter and lead vocalist is the same guy. And he is called Jeff Tweedy.
Weezer?
No, but you got the right letter to start the band name.
Wilco?
It's Being There.
Yeah. I don't know why. I've always had in my head that they're Scottish.
They're from Chicago.
Well, there you go.
The Tweedies from Chicago. Anyway, they were based.
Yeah, I don't know why Wilco have always been in my head as being Scottish.
I don't know why you're thinking that. I don't
Are Bell and
suppose
Sebastian Scottish? Because I always think they're Scottish
they
as
are
well.
Scottish.
Oh, they are. Good. A band I should really get into a bit more, Wilco.
So this kind of, it does kind of sound like it looks on the tin.
Yeah,
Sort
yeah.
of, how would I describe it? American sort of alternate country rock. Jeff Tweedy was in a band before called Uncle Tupelo with a guy called Sun Volt.
Why do I know Uncle Tupelo?
They were an acclaimed band in the early 90s in America. And they
That
were
name rings a bell.
they were seen as being what was called alt country. So it's kind of like alternative rock mixed with country.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's still a bit of that on this record. There's still a country influence on this record. Is it? There's elements of not really like REM, but I suppose a little bit like that, and a little bit of Rolling Stones, that sort of early
Yeah,
70s Rolling Stones, and hints of that, and hints of things like Neil Young, and all the sort of classic rock stuff with a sort of bluesy country edge to it. And there's a combination of ballads and rockers on here, a little bit of everything. And it's, how many songs on it? I think it's 19 songs. And it is very, very consistent in terms of the songwriting. You can't argue.
Bit like the Manic Street Preachers, because that's the word I was looking for, consistent.
It's kind of like there's 2 discs, and each disc is 40 minutes long, and about 9 songs on each one. So it's kind of like two albums that are very consistent. So there's nothing on there you would really say that's weak. Why did they put that on it?
Yeah. Because the double album can be the downfall of a lot of people, because you do end up running the well dry.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like, you could argue that the 2 halves of the album are kind of similar, and that the songs are not. You could argue that you could cut it in half, and it would still have the same kind of feel, and you wouldn't really be missing anything in terms of styles. But it's just, the songs are so good.
So that's it. That's your 3 for 1996.
That's my 3. So I think I'm going with Beck's Odelay, REM's New Adventures in Hi-Fi, and Wilco's being there. So it's an all-American trio.
It is an all-American trio, and to be fair, I'm quite happy with your choices, because it means I will have to listen to these at some point.
Yeah.
So, but my last entry is also American. Some bit of alternative rock, alt rock, bit of post grunge, pop rock. Weirdly, it was recorded now today. Then with today's artists, and I know Noel Gallagher's thing guilty for this one, is they will record the album and then it won't get released for a year. Whereas this was recorded between May and June of 96 and was released October the 1st, 96. So it was mastered, all mixed, all in that time. Some great songs off of it. One of them appeared on the latest Barbie film. They have released to date 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studio albums.
This has got to be Matchbox 20, is it?
It is indeed, Philster. Matchbox 20, Yourself or Somebody Like You. A great album cover, which did get them into a little bit of legal troubles. This guy here, Frank Torres.
Did he sue them because he didn't like being on the album?
Yeah, he claimed that they never asked permission to use his image. I mean, that is a great image.
Isn't it the case that the Nirvana baby also sued?
Yeah. And he said that it caused him emotional distress and all this.
I think that happened with the guy that was the Nirvana baby as well. He claimed that caused him emotional distress.
I mean, unfortunately, Mr. Torres, Frank there, he did die in 2016, age 73. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it were me, I suppose I'd be looking at it and thinking, I am going to be captured till the end of time.
What's he actually wearing on his head? Is that a swimming cap, or is that some kind of?
It looks like some sort of leather cap. I don't know if there's any other images inside. We can have a look. Oh, hit my mic. I don't think it's a gatefold, no, but is there any other artwork? It's a red vinyl.
I guess the other images are probably not of him. There are other random things.
You can just, I don't know, you can just see him here. Can you see him there?
Oh, there he is.
So it's almost like a leather cap, and then he's almost like a flight
sort of
helmet.
World War One flying
helmet. Yeah.
Biggles, basically.
Yeah. I got into this band. I remember seeing them on. Remember when was it Tandy's or Dixon's used to be in the town centre, opposite where Wilco is, and I remember
not this Wilco, folks, but
not that Wilco. I remember waiting for somebody, and Push came on MTV because MTV was playing In the Window, and I was like, "Oh, this is great," And I remember seeing the band name, and of course, it was before the internet was. Oh, here we go. It's Captain COVID coughing his lungs off here.
You didn't hear that, though, did you?
No.
I hit mute in time.
Well done, Phil. But it was before sort of, the internet and all this sort of stuff. So I carried the name around for ages of, I really like this. I'd only heard it the once. I think I did see it on MTV at some point. And it wasn't until 1999, and I was working at the local newspaper. I went out on my lunch break. I was in Our Price, and I was just having a flick through, and the album was there. They had it, and they hadn't had it in before because I remember checking. And I really, really love this. I've seen Matchbox 20 a couple of times in this country. I saw them at Madison Square Garden. They are a slight guilty pleasure because I know they get a little bit of what's the word? Because they're a bit middle of the road.
They get a bit of critical sneering and a hipster sneering, maybe.
Yeah. But I like Rob Thomas as well, the principal songwriter. As a songwriter, many people know him from the song "Smooth" with Carlos Santana that filled the airways in the late 90s. And Matchbox 20 came back last year and released their first album in 12 years. So I've got the limited edition box set over there. I do enjoy Matchbox 20. And unfortunately, this was the only album they released in the 90s because their follow-up album didn't get released until 2000.
Was that right? Okay.
So they do like long gap. Well, there's a 4-year gap between this album and the second one. And then between the second one and the third one, I think it was only 2 years. And then the third one and the fourth one was 9 years. And then 12 years before. They had a best of in between where they released some new material on that. Exile on Mainstream, which I thought was very cleverly titled.
That was a witty title, I have to say.
Yeah. So that's my three, Phil Sturt. The Manics. And Everything But the Girl.
So Everything Must Go, then Everything But the Girl.
And then Yourself or Someone Like You by Matchbox 20. I think that is a great album cover, by the way. Can we just say that's a great album cover?
It's great. Thanks to the man with the First World War.
Yeah. There is a lady's leg on the back there. You can see. Well, I presume it's a lady's leg. It's a leg anyway. So
that's Ben's trio, folks. That's my trio. Bex Odelay, REM's New Adventures, and Wilco's being there. We will be there for the next show in which we will be discussing the year 1997.
We could almost be here now.
In the meantime, let us know what would your top three have been from 96 and what should we be listening to from 97. Until then,
97.
We bid you farewell.